Good evening. Good to be with you. I expect everyone here at one time or another has been to a meeting. You know, some meetings are good, some meetings not so good. And often how good they are depend on who calls them, who runs the meeting, who sets the agenda, right? Well, we have today a meeting on the top of a mountain. In fact, it's called by God. This is, I think, the only meeting in the New Testament where God is running the meeting. We learn about a God meeting. What happens when God in the cloud calls together folks and things happen? I want to suggest there's three basic characteristics of this meeting that might give us some thoughts on how we can have better meetings or progress in our faith more this Lent. The first thing, clearly, that happens at a God meeting is that the masks come off. At this meeting, we see Jesus as Jesus really is. We don't see as human disguise. We see Jesus' face, a flame, a light. We see the light coming through him and from him. We see things as they really are, not as we pretend them to be or hope them to be. It's a place of reality, a place of clarity. When God calls a meeting, that's what happens. Now, mystics have been telling us for centuries that as they pursue their relationship to God and they pass on what they're learning, this notion of light that resides in all of us is prominent. It's not just Jesus who has the light, that this spark of the divine has been given to us all. One of the most prominent and famous events along this line of thinking is, of course, Thomas Merton. You may all be familiar with his own transformation and understanding when he's wandering the streets of, I believe it's Louisville. And this is a time in Merton's life when he's still fairly clerical. He's still thinking there's something really different and special about being monastic and giving your entire life and time to God. But when he's walking the streets of Louisville, he's given a gift and he sees everybody with their face shining like the sun. The garbage man, the businessman running to a meeting, mother and child. He saw every face shining. Changed him forever. We now knew where God is. The light is in everyone. When God calls a meeting, we get to see that. There's a writer called Frederick Buechner who wrote a generation or two ago, and he has a lovely quote that he says, you know, these moments that Merton had are just, once in a lifetime for very few. But if you think about it, we all see this clarity. And he writes, every once and so often, something so touching, so incandescent, so alive, transfigures the human face that it is almost beyond bearing. We've all seen that, haven't we? We've all seen someone so much in love. We've ever seen someone in such joy, where the face is so alive that it almost seems shining, and you almost can't even look at it. That's transfiguration. That's seeing reality. That's seeing things the way they are. Well, the second characteristic of a God meeting is that there are all sorts of strange people there. We have people like Moses and Elijah, and we have current people like Peter, James, and John, and Jesus. There's a sense of connectedness. There's a sense of things are working together, that things are built on top of one another. History and the present tense are not as off as we think. Connectedness. Father Scott last week during our retreat was telling us those with a Celtic spirituality lens often see the world with a little thinner veil than others. That the folks that we can't see are closer than we think. A Celtic contribution. Connectedness. Cross-generation. Standing on each other's shoulders. Continuing to build. I'm reading a book that was gifted me on my birthday called The Spirituality of, I'm forgetting the name. Spirituality of Imperfection. And this particular author borrows heavily from the Alcoholics Anonymous movement in building the theory of this spirituality. And in doing so, the author tells the story of how AA got started, which some of you may be familiar with. This man by the name of Bill Wilson is on a business trip. He's a drunk. He's an alcoholic. He's trying to be sober. And he wants a drink. And he hits him, well, I don't need a drink. And I don't need an expert to tell me I don't need a drink. What I need is another drunk who can be with me and help me get through this. So he goes and finds another drunk. And the two of them find another drunk, and the three of them basically form AA. And their insight is that I'm being cured, but that's probably the wrong word. I am approaching sobriety by helping you approach sobriety. You need me, and I need you. And in that connectivity of that mutuality, we see sobriety. Or we see whatever that means for any one of us. Whether that means what we want in our own spiritual life or our personal life. Whatever we want from our community comes from it being mutual, from giving away and getting what we give away. That's connectedness. So at this meeting, we have ability to see what's really going on. We see connectedness. And lastly, there are actually some things that are said. There are words that come from the cloud. And the words are, "This is my beloved. This is what I love. Listen to him." I'm telling you what I love. Now, God only talks from the heavens 3 times in the New Testament. You may or may not know. And he doesn't say much. This is the longest thing God says, is this spot here. But it's always affirmation. This is my beloved. This is my son. Yes, you're doing the right thing. God gives very few lines, but they're the lines of love. They're the lines of, this is what I love. Listen. So we talk about what kind of meetings we want to have. What kind of God meetings we want to be part of. Certainly, they're starting with proclaiming and telling one another about being loved. You are beloved and should be listened to, is what God is saying. Now, this is not the easiest agenda in the world, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world to be real. It's not the easiest thing in the world to be mutual. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to be expressing love all the time. And our disciples in this text do a great job of telling us that this is hard because they missed it all, right? They all just said, let's build a shrine, and perhaps just let's put my name on it so people know I was here, right, for this great thing. So This is uncomfortable territory for our ego. This is uncomfortable territory if we're not used to being in a place that's safe. We can see ourselves and the disciples here, I think, saying, this is a little more than I can handle sometimes, which is okay. That was okay for them. They survived it. But to see in ourselves this, let's institutionalize these verbs. Let's try to make something about it that's churchy rather than actually partake of it, is so human. And I'm so glad the text gives us that. So, more practically, I think, what does this teach us this Lent? What is our takeaway? Well, first, I think we need to be a safe place for one another. And we are. I mean, I certainly can affirm that. And a safe place where we can take off our masks and be real with one another. Even if we're not seeing the shiny face all the time, we can be who we really are with one another and offer that to whoever would join us. This is a safe place to be real, to see things as they really are. It's a place of mutuality. It's a place where we come not to be spectators, not to be taken care of, but a place where we're here to help each other grow in our faith. As if we could all sit around in a room and say, hi, my name is George, and I'm a struggling spiritual person. You know, we can each say that, can't we? We're struggling often. And we come to a place in mutuality where we can struggle together and learn together. And in that mutuality, find sobriety, whatever that means in our lives. And thirdly, what if we talk like God talked? What if we got up in the morning and looked at our children and said, you are beloved and I'm listening to you? We turn to our partners and spouses and says, you are beloved and I'm listening to you. We turn to the people in our lives. You are beloved and I'm listening. I'm listening. Because you're worth listening to. Because you have the same spark of the divine that the Christ has. What if we talked like that to the world and to one another more and more? What type of Lent would we have? To think about what in this text might speak to you or to me, I just really want to be that person. I want to be that person that can help people hear that they're beloved and worth listening to. That's my prayer, in particular, as I leave this text behind. But I pray whatever it is for you, take it with you, and let's walk in the light of a meeting run by God. Amen?